Hello and welcome to another English 101 video hosted by me and my cat, Ravioli. Today we're going to be talking about how to deal with the opposing viewpoint source in your position paper. Right, so you've already learned a lot about grounds, right? Grounds are just facts from a source you can use to help support your argument, right? Sort of like when we learned about reasoning in the op-ed paper. Only, grounds are a special kind of reasoning because it's facts from a source. It's things that really prove something. But now we're talking about what do you, in the position paper, you're supposed to show your awareness of people who disagree with you, and you're supposed to formally kind of address their concerns in the paper, and that tends to be very persuasive for academic readers because it shows you're unbiased and it shows you understand that there's valid viewpoints on either sides of the debate, right? Okay, so the sample that we're looking at is from the e-cigarette regulation topic. This might not be your topic, but that's okay because all of the concepts, the Toulmin concepts that you're asked to find here, it's going to be the same type of work for your topic. Okay, so look, let's start with this. This is key. This student wants more regulations on e-cigarettes, and so that means that she needs to identify a source that disagrees, right? That wants less regulation. She's going to find an opposing viewpoint source. And indeed, this particular article she chose, this is not one of the ones that's available to you, just because it's from a previous semester. But that article argues for less regulations. And so that's a good choice. It's a credible source that has a very different opinion than her, and she's going to use this paragraph to explore what they have to say, identify a good point they make in the concession, and then show in the refutation why she still disagrees, right? Okay, so let's take a look at what the different steps of this look like. The topic sentence is always important, right? That's the thing that kind of tells the reader, what the paragraph is going to be about. Readers like cues, However, I would make the case that the topic sentence is even more important when it comes to when you're dealing with the opposing viewpoint source, because the student, she does a great job here. She makes clear that this is not one of her beliefs, right? But she's trying to understand the views of other people on the other side. So the topic sentence right away lets the reader kind of know this is going to be an opposing viewpoint source, and it even lets you know what some of their concerns are, right? About the black market, right? So that means like a market where products can be purchased, products that are not legal can be still be purchased, even though the government has put regulations in place to ban them, right? So that's the topic sentence. And then she's got the source introduction here, right? She says, okay, I'm going to show you, here's the name of the article that I found, right? And they have these concerns and we're going to explore them. So that's a good source intro. Of course, this is written by an editorial board, and so there's no named author. And so you see when she uses the in-text citation, it's just the first few words of the article in quotation marks. So she's using MLA 9th edition just like you. So remember that, if it's a named author, like Baxt, then you put their last name after the direct quote in parentheses. But if there's no named author, then you want to use the first few words of the title exactly like she did. Okay, we got the topic sentence, we got the source intro. She's got to explain their argument. That's all right there. Okay, you have to have had some practice doing this, right? You did that in the Explain the Debate paper, right? Again, you're encouraged to use some or all of the same sources from the Explain the Debate paper in your position paper because you know them well, right? When you explain a source's argument, you're always going to need a mixture of your own words and theirs. You're never going to find like a perfect quote to encapsulate the whole thing. So she does a good job. You know, she doesn't have to explain every single paragraph of the article. She's just kind of trying to help us get the gist of it, particularly their point about the black market, right? And indeed, she does that because, boom, after the explanation, she gives you her concession. She's like, yeah, this is a good point that they make, right? And this is something they get into in the article, I believe, which is that, you know, some of the injuries associated with vaping have often been linked to black market devices, things that were not legal under the FDA, but were still being sold, that people still got a hold of and got hurt by, right? And so she's basically acknowledging, okay, like, yes, black markets are definitely a bad thing that do injuries to people. But then she says, aha, but that doesn't mean that we should not be trying to regulate stuff. I mean, when you think about it, there's a black market for heroin and fentanyl, right? These things are illegal, but people still use them. Does that mean we should just make them all legal? Right? I mean, there's a very fringe group of people who do believe that, but most people disagree with that, right? And so she's kind of adopting that line of reasoning here, right? She says, yes, we're worried about black markets, but, right? And so all this is her refutation. Rabbi, you can't put your butt in their faces. It's very rude. You have to lay down. This is all her explaining why she disagrees with the article, even though they make a good point about black markets. Right? It's very persuasive. It's very convincing. I really liked her idea to compare it to the tobacco smoking epidemic and how that was fueled by not having very much regulation, you know? Anyway, I can't tell you how many sentences to use for each of these. You know, different writers will have different answers to that. It is however many sentences you need to do to demonstrate the concept to get that work done. Although, you know, I'd make the case that, you know, you can go back over the video again and look at what I highlighted. You know, visually, these are good examples. I mean, your concession might be a little longer and your refutation might be a little bit shorter. That's fine. Your explanation of the argument might be a little bit longer. Just however long it takes for you to get it done. So this is what you want your paragraph where you deal with the opposing viewpoint source to look like. You got to have a paragraph like that in the position paper. I hope this video helps. Let me know if you have questions as you are working the paper towards completion. I want to see it be successful. That's all I've got for now. Take care, and I'll see you in a future video.